Hi,
Morning,
Jack.
Kat. How you
Hi.
doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good.
Nice
So,
to meet you.
oh, it's a nice view today. It's a little overcast, but it's always overcast in the morning here.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, it's lovely to meet you. So I'm Kasha, and
Okay.
I'm as you know, I'm in Canada, and I found you on Instagram, and
Right.
and I was intrigued for two reasons. And the first is obviously cider, and the second
Right.
because it's dogs. So I'm a fur mama. So of course I gravitated right away.
Oh,
So
good.
yeah. So can you let us know a bit about yourself?
So, I'm actually underneath. I guess you're looking at the cider bottle that I sent you, and we are actually underneath the blossom tree right now. We started pressing cider when I was a little kid. And obviously, since I was a kid, we couldn't drink the hard cider whenever it turned on us, so we just used to dump it. I know, right? But then, so I've grown up pressing apples pretty much my entire life. I'm on the west side of Washington, so I mean we're known as the apple state. I got to say that the east side, they have a lot of commercial orchards, whereas the orchards over here are small and privately owned and that kind of stuff. I can't really think of a big orchard on this side unless you go way up north towards like Burlington, almost the Canada border. I know that Oregon is now starting to get some orchards on their west side as well. So, and that's just my very limited knowledge on that. So anyway, so the tree that we're under, I actually planted when I was 3 years old.
Wow.
And my dad had sold his favorite cow, and out of the proceeds, this is one of the things that he purchased with it, and that's how it got the Blossom tree, because his cow's name was Blossom.
Okay.
So it's been with us for a while. We've transplanted it maybe 3 or 4 times in between moves and stuff,
Hmm.
and that's kind of where we're at. So I spent like 8 years in college. Went to University of Idaho. Um, and while I was there, I went over to Washington State University and took some of their viticulture classes and got into a little bit of that. And then I moved over to New York for 5 years. And while I was there, I toured a lot of orchards, wineries, and hard cideries over in the Hudson Valley area in Connecticut, a little bit in Pennsylvania, and like the cider works and that stuff down in Virginia.
Okay.
So during that time, I'm formulating and looking at everything that was going on around. And I was like, I have some property over in Washington. Washington doesn't have this, as far as I know. When I come back, I can start one up. And so last year, when I moved back to Washington, I started just kind of like tinkering around with cider, making it hard. And then I started, like having my friends and family taste it. And I was getting a lot of positive feedback on it. So somebody ordered a couple cases from me. I was like, well, I can't just sell them to you. So then I was like, well, maybe it's time to get a license. And so I started that process this spring. So right now, all I'm waiting on is some other stuff, and I'm ready to go.
Wow. Okay. So this all came about because you spent 5 years in New York State and toured other orchards?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's I've always had a super green thumb, but I'm actually a landscape architect. That's what I do during the day. I mean, I spend 60 hours a week sometimes in the office, so it's really hard to jump into the orchard and move things around. But so yeah, I mean, like any kind of design, any kind of science-based kind of things. Yeah, I've always been into it. So yeah, spending 5 years in New York really started it.
Were you a cider drinker before that, or were you inspired?
I was not actually. I mean, like I love my pressed cider, like straight out of the press. My favorite part of the cider pressing is actually the foam. I love like eating the foam that comes like straight off the cider press. It's to me, it's the most tart and the most tasty.
Okay. And now,
So
do you like hard cider now?
I do like hard cider now. When I'm just feeling a little like I want something to drink, I'd rather have a cider than a beer. So that's where I'm at with that. Yeah, I love hard cider. I actually got to work a little bit with Angry Orchard and working on their doing some behind the scene design work for the treehouse.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so you know, because they were on Treehouse Masters and they needed some extra crew to come in there and help them build, because that's what they do. You know, like they have their big stars, and then they have other people to come in there and finish it. And so some of the stuff I worked on was like design of the staircase, and then like some of the stuff like the masonry work around the base of it. So I really got to spend a lot of time in Walden, and that was about the general area I was in.
Okay. And what about when it came to formulating your cider recipe? How did you to come about with that?
So my dad, he's actually, you know, he's planted a lot of these trees himself. And when I got here, he was going on and on about this French apple called Calvel Blanc. And I was like, oh yeah, French apples. You know, we're gonna go with local Chehalis apples and that kind of stuff. And so basically, after I fermented that one and I did a single variety, I was really shocked and amazed. You know, because that apple's been around since the 1600s, and if you look around here, what I've been told is that this weather is a lot like Normandy in France. You know, really cool in the mornings. A lot of you know, all this gray behind us that you see is actually a mist that comes in, and so the Normandy French-based apples actually do quite well here compared to, say, the colder northern New York, Maine varieties like the Northern Spy or those kind of apples. They don't seem to do as well here.
Okay. Yeah, that's more the environment that I'm in. So for those ones. Sorry, go on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, I came up with my formulas just by blending. You know, I tend to blend the apples that come into season at the same time. I don't really hold off, you know, like waiting for, you know, I have a couple of Arkansas Black in here. I have a couple other ones in here that, you know, are a little bit later ripening ones in this area. So I tend to blend the ones that come into season all together.
And what the inspiration for the name for Three Dogs? I'm guessing you have three dogs?
I have two dogs, and the third one is my dad and his girlfriend's dog. So we have, let me step over here. We have Rizzo.
Oh.
Rizzo is about ready to turn 18.
Wow.
And he's been in New York with me. He's traveled everywhere with me. He's been like the best companion ever. So that's why he got his own Rizzo blend.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I have that.
Wolfie, when I was living in Texas, also in Texas, they have Texas Keeper cider down there, and they have the Austin cider down there. And the one that I found was nice was the Texas Keeper cider. And so when I was living down there, I picked up Wolfie. Wolfie, come here. And he actually has his own label as well, because we have Wolf River apples here.
Okay.
And so whenever I blend the Wolf River apples, he gets the Wolfie. That's his.
I see. Okay, so the ones that you send me have Rizzo's picture on it, and then
Yes.
they say like Wolfie. Okay, so they are actually two. I wanted to ask you. They are two different varieties, right? Because I'm going to.
They are two different varieties. Yes. And
okay.
so you have the Wolfie.
Yes, and I have Rizzo.
Which one would you like to open?
Well, I'm going to open both. You tell me which one. Which one do you think I should have first?
Let's see. The Rizzo. Definitely do the Rizzo.
Is that your wife? And your daughter?
No, that is my girlfriend.
Hello. She's
Hi.
Hi. You said you suggested the Rizzo first, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we're gonna go with her because obviously she's got the best taste, right?
Actually, yes. She has a very. If I think something's about ready to turn, like into vinegar, I
Mhm.
I will have her taste it, and she will tell me. She's got like a, what did they call that?
Sophisticated.
She has a sophisticated palate.
Okay, so I'm sorry. What is your name, my dear? What is your name?
Angela?
Angela. Okay, I don't. Wonderful, Angela. What? Maybe I should ask you. What should I expect when I try it with your palate?
The ones in the bottles are actually
They're supposed to have some carbonation in them, but I think yours does look like it's a still cider.
Yeah.
So I think
maybe-
this one's a little dry. It's not really on the sweet side,
Okay.
but it's more of a dry cider if you like that kind of thing. But let's see.
Oh, you.
Heard.
So Josh is starting without us. It's okay.
oh, sorry.
No, I'm just. It's okay. It's 8 in the morning where you are. You should be starting already. It's very, very thick, right? It's a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no aftertaste. So there's a nice, like a nice pop in there to wake you up. This,
You like that?
I like it. It's a strong one. No, what is your percentage on that?
7.5 probably on this
okay.
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I tell everybody, I'm like they go, well, how high is it? I'm like, well, I usually 3 of them is enough to make me pretty tipsy. I've conditioned them, these ones in the bottle, so they have quite a bit of effervescence in it as far as like, carbonation, but it's not a heavily carbonated cider.
No. It almost has notes of like it smells a little bit like it's got notes of like an apple brandy or something almost.
Yeah, she's shaking her head too.
Yeah.
I'll show you this real quick before we go.
Mm-hmm.
This year we have a blueberry growers association just down the road. There's a great big giant lake by where I live, and so it keeps our temperature here pretty moderate. And so we have blueberries that are grown right across the lake, and so I've been getting a lot of blueberries from there. So this fall, whenever I go to start the ciders up again, I'm definitely going to be mixing in some local fruit.
Oh, nice.
We have a proliferation of wild blackberries. They're actually Himalayan blackberries, and they're invasive species. But on the other hand, you're never out of blackberries here. So definitely this fall, we're coming into blackberry season. They're just starting to bloom up a little bit. These are loganberries, and there is a field out on the highway that's all they do all summer is they grow berries, and then they sell them roadside. So I get all of everything that I produce here off of this cidery is all local and probably within 25-30 miles. I really keep that carbon footprint low. So right now I'll just give you kind of a walking tour.
Oh, great.
Of that. This is the Chehalis River. This is the blossom apple tree that I was telling you about.
Mm-hmm.
So Chehalis apple, they found growing in the Chehalis River Valley, about 50 miles from here. And around here, they don't get blight. They don't really have any rust. They don't have any problems. It was basically one of those apples that the seeds, a pippin, it fell somewhere along the banks of the Chehalis River, started growing. I would compare them as a cross between, say, a Golden Delicious and probably like a Brayburn or something along those lines. It's very crisp, it's very juicy, and it's very prolific producer. It produces every year, and I've never had any problems. I don't like to spray, and I think last year I did just to see how it goes as far as like the copper and that kind of stuff. But this tree and this variety, you can see by the leaves that it really has no problems growing in this area.
And this is the one that you had transplanted a few times too, right? And it's
yes.
it's still taking off so well.
Yep. It's a good 40, it's probably about 40 years old now.
Yeah.
Mount St. Helens is just like right through that valley over there, and it went through the blast and everything, so got covered in ash. So it's been a good tree.
Wow.
Good variety to grow here. Yep. 2 years ago when I first moved in here to start up this orchard, it looked a lot like this out here.
Okay.
So as you pan and we walk through this, you'll see that I put a lot of sweat equity into this orchard. You'll notice the fence. It's a good, good 6.5 foot high. We do have elk, the Roosevelt elk, and they love to get in here and tear stuff up. So we tried our best to do a 7-foot fence, because typically an elk won't clear that kind of fence. And so that's what we did. We have Cosmic Crisp in here. Have you had one of those yet?
I have not.
Cosmic Crisp is kind of like the Honey Crisp.
Okay.
Washington State University spent 20 years developing it. And so right now you can only buy the actual tree if you live in Washington. They won't sell it out of state yet because it still has a copyright.
Okay.
So
I've never heard of a tree having a copyright. You said
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is one that I just planted this year. And this is one of the Wolf Rivers. I have 4 Wolf Rivers in here. And the thing with the Wolf River is it came out of, I think, Minnesota, if I remember right, Minnesota. And it's a really good baker, but as far as an eating apple, no, it has no flavor and stuff. So last year I had a tree, and we'll walk down towards that way, that overproduced of them, because their apple's about this big. And they say that it's a 1 apple pie. You only need 1 apple for a pie. And it was kind of like drinking water that somebody had dropped a little bit of apple flavoring into.
Oh.
And I had 100 gallons of it, and I was going to dump it. And so I was like, well, before I waste all that time and effort, let's try some blending. And so that's how you get the Wolfie brand. It actually turned out to be a really good blending apple. This is another Colville Blanc. Like I said, I was really impressed with it, so I went out and I got 14 more of these. I know that you'll be noticing these things as we go along, so I'll just let you know right now. A lot of people, they will just put the sticks in here like this and cause those branches to go lateral. But I am experimenting, and it seems to be working so far with just tying them down. One gentleman that I worked with or for as a client over in New York, he had a bunch of strings tied to the end of his branches, and he'd put fish weights on them to kind of tie them down like that. Okay. And so it's kind of a conglomeration of what I seen him do, because he was 94. He'd obviously been growing apples and fruit for a while, so he knew what he was doing. This is a Colville Blanc, and this is one of the ones that I was talking about. So Colville Blancs are really characteristic of, they have this heavily dimpled end to them. And so next year, this thing should be loaded. And then as we walk along, you'll notice that they have these white collars around them. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's my solution for rabbits. So rabbits, they tend to chew up the bark that they can reach, especially in the winter, to get like extra nutrients. And so this was just putting this collar around them was a way to keep them from doing that. This is another French variety that I keep in here. I always have to remind myself. Amère de Berthier. And I have some apples on this year as well. I mean, I really expect them to start producing like next year. Next year, they should really start coming on. As far as my pollination goes, I keep bees, mm-hmm. and I keep mason bees. Okay. So I also have pollinator tracks in here. I do a no-mow-may, which basically allows the white Dutch clover to come up, which is this stuff right here. Uh-huh. And it just keeps the pollinators coming in. Can't have apples without pollinators.
So all of these trees that you're expecting fruit from next year, are you going to put together for a different kind of blend, or like?
Yes, yeah. I will. The Colvilles, I really want to just keep those as a single variety, mm-hmm. But the rest of them will be blended. So that's what I'm going for, is that. So also, I did not send any to you, but I also have a hopped variety that I do. Mm-hmm. and I grow all my own hops here as well.
Wow.
So this year I also put in some Perry pears.
Okay.
So I don't expect anything out of those. Those are more of a science experiment, just to kind of see what's going to happen. But as you can see, I've got the cones coming on right now for the hops. I have 5 or 6 of these planted all around the orchard. And they go Chinook. We have Chinook variety, Tahoma, Yakima, and I get all the rootstock, you know, because they're basically a rhizome. So those are actually, I get all those from the east side of Washington.
Okay. So you can control all the variables when you're making.
Yes,
yeah.
I do. I control everything on it. I'm not a control freak though.
This one. Well, I should ask Angela. I think I don't know.
Oh yeah.
A little bit.
Okay. So last year, or this last spring, I was doing some research, and Cider out of New York had been posting some things on Instagram, and they talked about this apple right here. And come to find out, I could get some. It's from Kazakhstan. I guess there's only 117 of them left in the wild. I mean, this is from what I've been reading online. There could be more, there could be less, or it could just be, you know, I got my research off the internet.
Most reliable source ever. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So this tree here came out of California. It's from Trees of Antiquity. And I'm not getting paid for any of these names I'm throwing out there. I'm just, this is just where I get my stuff, and I love to share information. But I was really impressed with how this tree came in from them. I'm really impressed with how much it's produced this year already. And this has do you know much about this apple?
I don't. That's the fruit, the purple from my
view?
Yeah. Wow. So what? Yeah. No, I don't know much. I don't know actually anything about it.
It has a red flesh.
Wow.
Yeah, and apparently, it makes a really nice rosé.
Okay.
So that's what I'm going to use this one for. Once it gets up and going fully, it's going to be a rosé.
Oh, nice choice. Nice choice.
Thank you.
So it's a outside and the red flesh inside apple?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send you a picture whenever we're all done. I think that there is some on my Instagram of it, but yeah, it's a red fleshed apple, and it's a very red fleshed apple. A lot of people that I bring out here, the first words they say is, "Oh, it's a plum tree." I'm like, "No, look again." So, yeah. And then they're really amazed because, you know, you grow up and you buy apples from the market, from the supermarkets and stuff, and all you see is the bright, shiny red, you know, skin and the really white flesh on the inside, and that's really what sells the apple. So when you show people there's different varieties of apples, it's kind of like they're in shock a little bit that they come in these colors. So there's four different variety of apples out there that are actually red fleshed.
Wow.
But this is the one that I've chosen to get because it is so rare in nature, apparently. I also, last year, whenever we had the shutdown with all the COVID and stuff, I think a lot of people started buying up apple trees to put in their home orchard, you know, some kind of get back to nature and start growing their own stuff. And so this spring and this fall, I've had a terrible time trying to get a hold of apple trees, you know, because I'm wanting to buy, you know, like 20, 30 at a time, and everybody's been sold out. So that's why I'm sourcing things right now from, like, these back 2 trees here and a couple over here actually came from Maine, from out of Felco. It's a Felco seed and that kind of stuff out of Maine. So they came over. These ones here, and then like 2 of them over here are what they call spitter apples.
Okay.
So spitter apples are the kind that you bite into and you instantly just go, wah, and spit it out because it's so tart and sour and stuff. But I've been reading a couple of cider books recently, and they say that's the best ones for making cider. This one here is a Wixon, and I don't know what the deal is. After we had that, it was 112 degrees down here, and after that, these things just decided it was time to bloom, which is kind of odd because sometimes you'll get a second spring, which is just a spate of like warm weather, and the trees will decide that it's time to bloom.
Okay.
but I can't imagine it happening in the middle of 112-degree weather. So
So is that like a crab apple? Because we would call them crab apples. So is that
no, this
what you
is just a
guys consider?
Wixon.
Okay.
It's a Wixon. It's not. I don't have any crab apples in here.
But when you say about the spit, like what you refer to as spitter apples, would it be the same kind of sourness that I would get from a crab apple? Like
Yes,
okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Matter of fact, the gnarled pippin that I have up there, gnarled, they actually named it after Johnny Appleseed, and that one they say is a real true spitter.
Yeah.
So I also have this little experiment in here, so we'll see how this does. This is an Asian persimmon.
Oh, cool.
And so for the longest time, I thought it was dead, and I guess it just needed enough heat to make it perk. Angela here, she wanted a persimmon tree because she's actually from Texas and Virginia and that kind of stuff, so she's used to having persimmon cookies. And so I said, yeah, I can put a space in here for your persimmon tree. And then she was like, yeah, just yank it out. It's not doing anything. I said, well, let's give it a couple more weeks. And here we go.
Nice. So, well, Angela, will you provide us with your persimmon cookie recipe? I've never heard of persimmon cookies.
I can.
Wonderful.
I can do that. Yeah.
So along this way, we have another with this. I can't even say the name. Nidiskia. So I have two of these. That way they can at least cross-pollinate.
Mm-hmm.
And if they bloom at the same time, since they will bloom at the same time, just to ensure that. The other one that we have is the yellow transparent. Now, most people, these things ripen about the end of August, beginning of September, and they go bad really fast. They're not a keeper apple. They're from, I want to say, the Ukraine area. And a lot of homesteaders over here actually planted these. They're a prolific producer. And the reason why I went with this is because, A, to appease my dad because he really wanted one. And two, whenever you press them, if you let it sit out for 2 days, they fizz almost instantly. Oh, look who's coming. So we have some Ashmead kernels in here. That kind of stuff. This is going to be a sales shop.
Nice.
So that's what I'm working on right now. Not much to see on the inside, but this is the outside. I just put in the floor, and we're going.
Nice. Will you have a place where people can come and like either have a flight or like a?
That's what this is going to be kind of be. What I'm really hoping for is, say, in the next 2 years, is I have a cousin, and he takes down trees, and he has all these slabs, great big giant slabs of like cedar and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to get some slabs from him and make great big like bar tables that people can stand at. And that will be interdispersed out here in the orchard. So that way, you can have some shade, you can have a place to drink.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what I've taken away from this whole COVID thing, it was a great learning experience as far as like a business model goes, is unfortunately, I don't think this is the last one that we've seen. And so I think that if you start designing your business right now to keep that spatial distance and keep open air, I think that you're going to do better in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how accurate that is, but that's kind of how I'm thinking. I would like to do wedding venues and stuff out here. This next fall, most of these big trees are going to be coming down, and I'm going to be clearing that out and adding another 2 acres.
For the orchard or for other?
For more orchard.
For orchard, yeah. Okay.
More space. I have a parking lot getting ready to come in as well. Going to gravel all that down, and security cameras. It's just, you work 60 hours a week at one place, and then you come in here and throw as much time as you can to do the other stuff. So I'd really like to transition out of what I'm doing right now and straight into this.
Yeah.
That's my goal. Just a couple more things that I'm going to show you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, this is great.
You like it?
I love it. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so welcoming. It just looks it's so welcoming. Now, can people now where can they purchase your things? Is it just online or?
They have to right now. That is the one thing that I'm waiting on, is to be able to get my Washington liquor license, which is an arduous task. It's not. It's actually easier to get my federal license. It was easier to get my federal license than it was to get it for the state.
Wow.
And that's, yeah. So as soon as that comes through, we're open. We're ready to go.
Lovely.
This is the Wolf River tree that I was telling you about earlier. And so this is where, remember when I said I had about 7,500 gallons of it? This tree right here produced all 75 to 100 gallons of it.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. And it was so full of fruit last year that it actually bent itself out of the ground. And so now we have the holdups for it.
Are you expecting that much fruit this year?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay.
And finally, let's see. I'll take you over here. I'll show you some new things that I have coming into the orchard. So since I had such a hard time getting fruit trees in this year, like I normally would, I started doing grafts. So I actually contacted one gentleman, his name, and he has an apple actually named after him. And so we have the Rochon Rouge right here that I grafted.
Nice.
And so this one's coming in, and so is this one. Also went up to a place on the peninsula, across over to Gig Harbor, and there was a lady over there. She had a 100-year-old apple tree called a 20-ounce Pippin, and I took some scion wood off of that, and that I got some of those going as well. So they are up in these trees. This one here is kind of a no-name tree. It came out as one tree, and apparently the graft got covered, and then it just started producing these apples. I don't really know what they are, but they're really bitter. Okay. And I blend them, and it seems to work. Okay. And finally, before we anything like this is my lost variety apples. Basically, what was it, in 1900 there was something around, I want to say, like 14,000 or 40,000 named apples varieties, and between 1900 and now, you had the Volstead Act where they started cutting down all the apple trees that they could get their hands on, especially the cider trees, because people were making alcohol out of them. Can't have alcohol during the Prohibition. And so a lot of these, and some of them weren't as commercially viable as, say, like the Red Delicious, or the ones that we commonly see in the stores. And so a lot of the orchards that had these varieties just simply got lost to time. The trees that were still viable died off. 1900s, 121 years ago now. So most apple trees, even if they're the full variety, are good for 80 to 100. And that's if they make it through. So a gentleman over on the east side, he has actually started going through all these old homesteads and finding these lost variety of apples. He sends them down to Oregon State University, and he gets them genetically tested to see if they actually are old lost varieties. And then once he just figures out that they are a lost variety, he grafts them and then sells them to locals. So that's what I've done. I've just picked up a couple of those, and they are now going into my orchard. I met with him 3 weeks ago and told him what I was doing. He was very excited about it. So that's what I do.
Wow, that's very exciting.
Do you want anything else, or
try the other one?
Would you like to try the other one?
I heard that, Angela. She's like the cider whisperer. Try the other one. It's like Field of Dreams. If you try it, you will smile.
When I see she has a distinguished palate, we were wine tasting in Pennsylvania, and I love telling people this story because it just kind of tells you how it is. The sommelier was serving us up the wine, and she tasted the wine. She's like, "No, that's bad." And the sommelier tasted it, and she goes, like that. And then the owner actually came over there and he tasted, he's like, oh no, that is bad. He goes, you have a very sophisticated palate, young lady. So that's her. So now you're going to try the Wolfie or the Rizzo. No, you already did the Rizzo.
I tried to, yeah, no, this is the Wolfie. So I just wanted to put them up so for different colors. So the Wolfie should be darker, right? And I see now
Yes,
I have
ma'am.
more, yeah, I have more carbonation in the Wolfie. I definitely have
Yes.
lots of tiny bubbles. And it smells let's see. The Wolfie smells a bit more like a freshly sliced apple, whereas the
Okay.
Rizzo line smells a bit more like apple brandy.
Yes.
Which
That would be probably about right, because like I said, it was more of a, yeah, you're absolutely right, because it was definitely more of an apple juice. You know, like I said, it was more like apple flavored water. So yeah, definitely would get some more apple scent out of it.
for the Wolfie you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that one's nice too. It's a lot lighter. It's
Yes.
sweeter. It's sweeter than the Rizzo.
Yes. That would be Wolfie as a dog too. I don't know. Rizzo's pretty sweet, but Wolfie's definitely one of the ones that are sweeter. So that one is a blend of the Wolf River. There is a little bit of Colville Blanc in that one, because the Colville actually comes on around late October.
Okay.
And so does that Wolf River. It's going to have a little bit of Macintosh in it. And then, if I remember right, it'll also have a little bit of the Red Gravenstein.
Okay. You know what this would make it also, have you ever made slushies with your ciders?
I have not.
I have.
You have, Angela? Do you use this one?
I haven't used that one. I've used different ciders,
Okay.
but this one, because it's so sweet, it would be good as a slushie. The
Yeah.
other one's more dry. This one is the sweeter one, like a cider you would expect.
Yeah, I tried.
Like I'm a dry cider person.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm actually diabetic, so I can't drink a lot of the sweet stuff. So I try to keep a lot of my ciders at least semi-sweet to very dry.
Okay. When you make the berry inspired ciders, will you add them to a particular apple blend that you already have, or are you looking to just make a complete reformulation?
A complete restart. So I'll probably, I think right now, the game plan right now is to use the Wolf River as a lot of bases for my blends, because it is a prolific, it is a good blender, and just kind of go off of that. And I'm not gonna infuse my fruits. I'm literally going to be dumping the fruits right in with the apple pumice.
Nice.
So it'll definitely be a nice, it'll be very subtle, but I never want to overpower the apple, because that's the whole point of getting a hard cider, is you want that crisp apple taste with like notes. So,
what about the persimmon? Can you use that at all?
I mean, don't think that I haven't thought about it. You know, I always have like these little ideas in the very back. Obviously that's going to be down the road. The persimmon I think would make a really good blend, simply because it's as far as like juices go in it, it's not a heavily juiced fruit.
Right.
So it wouldn't overpower anything.
Maybe like a nod to Angela's cookies, like a cookie inspired.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, like maybe have some persimmon cookies on the side with the persimmon drink as well.
Yeah, like I mean, once Angela sends me her recipe, which I can't wait to I can't wait to have it. Then whatever sort of like notes are in that, like Angela can probably tell us that on that, if there's like a cinnamon or a nutmeg or some kind of, make it like a persimmon spice. I know some places like different varieties, like for the fall in particular, like a little bit of a warming one.
Yes, I've been reading up on what they call them, heat ciders, or warm ciders and that kind of stuff. And so basically it's exactly what you're saying. It's just ciders pretty much with mulling spices.
Yes. Great.
Tasha, I really appreciate your time. Thank you for the invite as well.
Of course.
If you ever want anything from me, just let me know. And, maybe I'll make like a special extra dry cider for you. I'm a real customer orientated kind of person. That's what I'm best known for, even in my field of work.
Oriented.
And so if you need anything from me, let me know. If you would like any help with anything, I'm always here. If anybody out there that's watching this has any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I always have a policy of at least 4 hours in between responses. So
Wonderful.
most people they'll respond by the next day, 24 hours. It really, yeah, I really try. So well, I'm excited for this journey. I'll let you have one more shot of the special Rizzo.
Oh,
So he's been a very special boy to me. So
yeah.
All right.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You have a good afternoon.
You too. Have a great morning.